Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV, and hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and we have so many exciting things going on here. I just love it. We have a brand new show today and a brand new co-host who has joined our team. So let's get right to it. Our show is Authentic Achievements, and my co-host is Kim-Adele Randall, and she's joining us now. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, Dr. JACALYN. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, it's very exciting. And so I just want our audience to know that Kim was a guest on one of our shows, and we connected, and I reached out, and here she is now as part of our team at USA Global TV. So thank you so much, Kim.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed being interviewed, and I'm so looking forward to being on the other side and interviewing other people.
So for folks who are just joining us, our first show typically with a new co-host and a new show is that we actually do the show together without a guest. But going forward, we will be having guests. So if you're interested, you can reach out to Kim. We'll be giving her contact information. It's actually available on the platforms right now. Kim, I'm going to spotlight you and give you the opportunity to share with our audience, who is Kim and why are we doing this show?
Thank you. So who am I? I'm a really proud single mum living in the UK, and I'm authoring my next book, Authentic Achievements, which is where we got the idea for the show. And it really is about sharing people's authenticity and how they've overcome adversity to go on and achieve amazing goals, in the hope that we can inspire our amazing listeners to get out of their way and go and achieve their dreams.
Thank you, Kim. And, you know, we talked before the show began that many times we have something happen to us and we just become frozen. We just feel like, hey, maybe it's not meant to be, or I don't have the energy to do whatever it is. And we're very vulnerable. And in this vulnerability is actually opportunity. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So well put. I think, I spent so many years terrified of my vulnerability. And my biggest vulnerability was I was an ex-hairdresser, and I moved into corporate life, and I was convinced when I was on the board that someone was going to turn around one day and go, put the hairdresser on the board, quick, get her off. And it never happened, but it was my biggest vulnerability until many years later when I worked out it was my superpower. Because as a hairdresser, you learn how to listen to people, to understand what's important to them, and to help them be their best selves. Well, that's leadership. That's what our people want, is for you to listen to them, to understand what's important and help them be their best. So I realized too late in life that actually my vulnerability was my superpower. And I think that's, again, one of our purposes, isn't it, Dr. JACALYN, of today's show and the series, is to help people recognize that in themselves.
Yes, and thank you for being so transparent and authentic, Kim. So, as you know, there are a lot of hairdressers out there across the world, and many I've been to, and I really appreciate them. They almost become like a therapist, and sometimes I feel so bad. You just dumping all your information because you feel so at ease. So, when you reflect on the fact that you were hiding this fact that you were a hairdresser, what was going through in your mind? What did you think people would think?
It's a great question, because my hairdresser is one of the people I appreciate most in the world, because it creates that safe space for me. And yet, because I'd moved into corporate financial services and I didn't have a degree and I didn't have the papers that said that I should be there, I got myself really nervous and was like, oh my goodness, if they find out I'm just a hairdresser and haven't even gone to get A-levels or gone to university, then I'm never going to have the career that I want. And it wasn't true. And actually, it was just my own subconscious holding me back. but it held me back for a lot of years. And I suffered really badly with imposter syndrome and being terrified that people would find me out and find me to be lacking. That even if I won any awards, I couldn't believe that they were mine. I actually thought people were just being kind. And you kind of realize now, actually, no, you weren't them. But I think sometimes we dismiss, we call them the soft skills, don't we? Being able to talk to people, being able to empathize. And it always strikes me as strange that if there's such soft skills, why do people find them so hard? Because so many people really struggle with those. And I think it's about how we change what we place value in, isn't it? To say, talking to people, engaging with them, listening to their story is a real skill. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I also think that authenticity, while it seems like it should be so easy to demonstrate, it's a challenge for people. People hide behind a mask. I've known many people when I was in corporate, they were one way at work and they were another way outside of work. It was like they were two different people. And I thought that's got to be a lot of work, right? To just show up as who you are. But yet people are afraid, so they put on the mask. We do have a comment from Philip Sykes. Hi, Philip. So nice to hear from you. So valuable. We all need to understand that we have a purpose. Big respect, Kim. And Philip is, he's also on our team, and he is one of our co-hosts for The Power of Etiquette It Matters, coming up shortly. And he's also a talking head. So thank you for watching, Philip. Thank you. So Kim, when you think back to being a hairdresser, by the way, bravo and kudos to all those hairdressers out there, because we love you. We need you. Hairdressers actually help transform our appearance. And when you think about transformation on the outside, I know many times, I would say 3 or 4 times, I was in a bad relationship and I just cut all my hair off. I just wanted to transform and get rid of that baggage. But when we think about that external transformation, we can see it. But yet the internal, we can't actually see the way we go and get our hair done. Voila, we have a different look. But that internal transformation takes commitment and time. What are your thoughts about that?
No, you're so right, because I guess the outside piece is the image we put out there to the world. And I remember at my toughest point in my life, when everything had gone horribly wrong, I started to lose my hair. And my hairdresser, who is a really good friend now, she helped making sure nobody ever found out that I lost it. And it allowed me to not lose the final part of my identity. And she saved me. She really did save me. It might sound melodramatic. It was just my hair. But actually, I'd coped with my marriage falling down, a health scare, becoming a single mum, finding a new job. I'd cope with all of that. But the thought of not being able to have my hair the way I wanted it and to not look externally the way that I wanted was just a step too far. And actually, I've spent the last 3 years working on the inner work, because I suddenly realized it was all still a mask. It was all still about trying to show up and be what I expected people expected me to be. And actually now I kind of go, well, you know, I'm 48. I'm a single mum, and this is who I am. And I don't really need the mask anymore, because actually I've become comfortable with who I am on the inside. But you're right, it takes so much more work to do that part, and you can't see the change.
Well, congratulations, because that's a major accomplishment. And when you think about taking off that mask and setting it aside, maybe even throwing it away, it's sort of exhilarating. It's like losing 10 pounds or more, isn't it?
Absolutely. It is. You know, that whole piece around, it would terrify me before. If I were coming on something like this, I would make sure that I've got loads of makeup on and all the rest of it. And now I'm just like, well, this is just who you are. And actually, I'm very blessed that I've made it to 48. A lot of people don't make it that far. So just be proud of that and move forward with grace and gratitude around who you get to meet every day and what you get to learn. And I think that's been a massive change for me, and I'm hoping will be a really good thing for my little girl, so that she actually is able to embrace who she is and not apologize for that, so that she can just go out into the world and do what she's here to do, rather than we spend so much time, don't we, all of us, at some point doubting ourselves and doubting that we can add any real value, or that we're doing it right, or that we're creating anything that people want to be part of. And I think the beauty of children is they don't have any of that. They've not learnt any of that yet. So they are just what they are, aren't they? I mean, and we might find that slightly frustrating sometimes when the 57th version of why, mummy, why? But actually they are just, what's in their head is going to come out of their mouth because they're just being. And there's no ulterior motive. And I think that for me has been part of my big life lesson, becoming a mum late in life. I mean, she's 5 now, so I was relatively late, is relearning how to just be and not worry about the rest of it.
I can't even imagine. I don't have any children, but your whole life changes. And to your point, when you're, you're not in your 20s, you're already established, and then you have this new person in your life. I can only imagine that it's a major eye-opening experience, but yet one filled with so much joy, just learning how to play, just learning how to let go of all the technology, which we love technology. Please don't turn it off right now. So, Kim, I've actually broached this subject before on this platform. When does it occur that we change from being that beautiful, innocent child who just wants to play and question all that incredible curiosity, to the judging, to the self-doubt, to the insecurity?
Sadly, we do it to our children and we don't mean to. So we inadvertently, because we're living with our adult life of pressure of conforming and fitting in, and we've got this compare and despair society, we start to layer it on our children. And I find myself doing it sometimes as well, going, oh, people will think she's pretentious, or she shouldn't do that because she should wait her turn. Everyone should be kind. So we start saying to them, oh, no, don't do that. Just be a bit quieter, or don't be too loud, or don't be too bossy, or don't do something else. And we start to give them that internal dialogue. And what I've identified in the research is that we create this by the age of 7. We create an I am statement, and then we build on it by the time we're 14, and we enforce it, and then we embed it by the age of 21. And that becomes the underpinning blueprint to our life. So mine was, I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable. And therefore anything that went wrong in my life, it was okay because I wasn't good enough and I wasn't lovable, neither of which were true. And I come from a really loving family who love and support me in everything that I do. But I was brought up in a time where girls should be seen and not heard, and we shouldn't step out of our box, as it were. So inadvertently, that created a backstory that I carried into my future. And this is what we do with our children. So it's trying to allow them to just be. And when they get upset, let them be upset. We rush to make them better because we want them to be better. But what that does is teach them that emotion's not a good thing. And therefore they bottle it up inside, and then their subconscious starts to play with it. So allowing them to be upset and sit with them whilst they're upset and say, I imagine that's really, I imagine it's really frustrating that mummy wouldn't allow you to watch the 57th version of Barbie because I couldn't take any more. And I can see how that's upset you, but can you see why mummy's asked us to move something different? It takes a little bit longer, but hopefully it will allow them to continue to just be and evolve, because how many of us are getting to sort of like my age, or probably not quite as old as me, and having to relearn how to just be themselves because we've spent so long not doing it.
Really good points. And I'm 58. I'm going to be 59 next month. And I have to tell you that I had a mask on for a lot of my life because I have 3 autoimmune diseases. And I was always ashamed and humiliated because of my skin or running to the bathroom. And so, yeah, it happens all the time. But at least we see it and we get the opportunity to embrace it and then evaluate how can we take the hand that we've been given and then make something of it. When you were talking, I was thinking there's a school that's close by here. It's a Catholic school, and the children wear uniforms. And when I go for my walk, sometimes they're outside. And I happened to notice the other day that they were having the children run around the parking lot for exercise. And you could see that some were way ahead and others were behind. And then I saw someone turn to the ones behind and just yell something. And then I just saw one girl put her head down and kind of just stop. And it reminded me when I was in school, I wasn't very good at gym, which I hated it actually. And people would make fun of you. and you carry that, like, you don't even know how that's going to affect you later. And I thought about that little girl, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wish I could just give her a hug and say, it's okay, you don't have to be the fastest one, just keep going, and don't let somebody else's judgment or harsh words impact you. But I'm sure that they would.
Yeah, and I think you're so right. And when you see things like that, you do want to just go and give them a hug, don't you? And go, do you know what? Just dance in your own lane, love. Dance in your own lane, because the rest of it's not for you. But we try and make people conform, and you've got to try and be good at everything at school. When we still do it today, you know, you've got to be an all-rounder. Well, we're not all-rounders as human beings. You know, we're good at some things and we're not so good at other things, and that's why we work as a society. Because if we were all good at everything, we would never talk to each other. We never need to. Whereas actually, if we go, well, look, I'm quite good at this and you're quite good at that, we can barter. I can help you with your bit, you can help me with my bit. Together we'll be stronger. And I think it's helping them to understand that. And my little girl sometimes comes home, she'll be very upset because someone was mean to her at school, and told her that, you know, she wasn't clever enough, or she wasn't this. And I was like, on whose term, my darling? On whose term are you not enough? Because the only person it counts for is your own. And you should only measure it with, am I being kind? Am I trying hard? And am I learning something? And if you can say yes to those three, you're more than enough. So I think it's trying to help change that dialogue so that they don't. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you see a little kid with their head down, because you go right back there, don't you? You go right back there to when you were that age and somebody did something or said something to you that made you feel bad. And I think that's why we empathize so much when we see children that are hurting, because our own inner child is crying out to them. We know how that felt.
That's so true. And it does take its toll. And many times, I know, at least with me, you don't even talk about it because you just think, okay, I have a horrible voice. Okay, I should be thinner. Okay, I should be prettier. You know, all the things that somebody said to you, and really you just sort of stuff it down. And Kim, when we look at authentic achievements, whatever that might be, whatever that is for you, whatever it is for me, there are definitely people who are not happy for you. And that doesn't mean that you should embrace that, because we don't know the journey someone else is walking on. So I know for me, I was always about gold stars because I'd love to be brought up on stage, like you were talking about awards. And at some point I realized the only gold star I need is my own. But it took about 57 years, I hate to say.
And I think I love that, Jacqueline, because that is so like me. And it took such a long time to realize that actually it didn't matter how many awards other people gave you. They didn't mean anything until you could acknowledge it for yourself, until you could look in the mirror and go, I did all right there. I might not go as far as, I'm amazing, but, I did all right. I'm not completely hopeless. That for me was a massive breakthrough. But we do, don't we? We have these bits where we take all of what's being said externally and we cling on to the bad bits, because there'll be just as many people that are happy for us, that do champion what we're doing, that are thrilled for us, but we'll hold on to the few people that aren't happy for us. And actually, they're not unhappy for us. They're unhappy for themselves. So it's not that they really even know who you are per se to be happy or unhappy for you. They're just unhappy with where they are. And rather than make that change, it's easier to say, oh, well, it's all right for you because you had this that I didn't have, or that I didn't have. But like you said, you don't know what's happening in somebody else's world. You have no idea what's going on at home or outside. I remember once having to do a big redundancy program, and the board said to me, Kim, are we ready? Have we got everything organized? I was like, well, we're ready as we're going to be. And they were like, well, perhaps we should stop then. And I was like, no, what I mean is we're about to tell 1,800 people that we're making job losses. I have no idea what's going off in all 1,800 people's lives. So I have no way of knowing what this information is going to do to add to the burden they're already carrying. And the only thing I can do is be there for them and hold the space, talk to them, understand what they're going through, and allow them to have those emotions. So I think that taught me a lot about the fact that we don't know what's going on in people's worlds. So when people are unkind to me, or if they aren't happy for me, I just think, well, I hope one day you achieve what it is that you're wanting to achieve, and that people are happy for you, because clearly there's something that's making you sad. And it's that sadness that we often lash out at other people. I say to my little girl, if someone's cruel to you, it's probably because they're sad and they're hurting, and unfortunately they therefore want somebody else to hurt. So don't respond to it, just be kind, because maybe what they really need today is somebody else's kindness.
I love that. And many times if you see someone who's angry, it's because they're hurting, they're really sad, but they don't know how to express themselves. Or maybe to your point, when you just mentioned about a safe space, maybe they don't have a safe space. Maybe they don't feel like anyone's there to actually hear them.
Yeah. No, I think sadly you're right. It's sad to think that about people, isn't it? It's sad to think that somebody doesn't have a safe space, somewhere to go to, or somewhere to be comfortable, to just go, I'm not happy today, or I'm not having a good day, or I don't feel good about myself, or something else that's going on. So I think, if we can all try and be kind. I mean, I have one of my friends was like, I can't believe you can continue to be kind to people when they've been really awful to you. And I was like, but I've learned in life that people don't hurt you on purpose. The sad fact is they're not even thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves and their own pain, and you're just collateral damage. So when you start telling them about what they've done to you, all you're doing is adding to their pain, because they're going, well, I was already miserable and now I've got to deal with your misery. So thanks for that. Now I've got a double burden. So I tend to take mine away and go and deal with it with people that love me and say, look, can I just need to get this out of my head, because if not, I'm going to overthink it and I'm going to eat it up and it's going to become part of me. Whereas actually, once I can start sharing it and I can see the reaction on their faces of horror that somebody could be so mean to you, we're just like, well, okay, I kind of get it. I don't think they meant me. I think they probably were just dealing with something for themselves. But I'm very fortunate that I've got that community that will help me in doing that.
It's so important. And to your point, I've been in conversations with people that they're really worked up and angry, and I just look around like, are you talking to me? It must be I'm just the pass through, because I know that it's not directed at me. That pain is real, and you need to do something with it. And a lot of times we just project it onto someone else, because maybe the other person, it could be me, it could be you, it could be anyone. Maybe we don't have boundaries to say, hey, listen, I hear you, but that's your stuff. You've got to work on it. Because in order to be authentic, I think we do have to set boundaries on both sides.
We do. And that was something I didn't do very well for a lot of years. And therefore people trampled all over me. I think at one point I had welcome written on me. It was like, hi, come on in, wipe your feet on the way through. But it's because I didn't have boundaries, because I wanted to be kind. And the piece that I had missed, the piece I hadn't understood, was to be truly kind. It includes being kind to yourself, which means you have to put those boundaries in, because if not, I think there's the old saying, isn't it? You can't pour from an empty cup. If all you're doing is being kind, no matter what anybody else does to you, in the end, you deplete yourself and you've got nothing left to give. So you have to have that self-control to put those boundaries in from a place of kindness to you and to the people that you're wanting to try and serve.
Yes, good point. And I know growing up, and obviously I'm older, but I was always told, you're from the me generation. It's all about you. So you kind of like put that aside, and then it's all about somebody else. And then you get to be a certain age. And like with me, it was my intestines that were not working too well. And it's kind of like, yeah, you have to have boundaries. You have to say no. And it's okay now, because you have to do some self-care, because you have to fill up your cup before you can fill up someone else's, to your point.
Yeah. And it's hard, isn't it, when sometimes, and I think this is what life teaches us, is if we don't find it for ourselves, if we don't find that way of putting balance, then our body will do it for us. So our body will go, do you know what? You're not putting in boundaries, so I'm gonna make you. I'm gonna give you something. I ended up with double lung pneumonia in intensive care, because I was doing nothing around the boundaries. I was just giving. And in the end, your body just goes, I will make you stop. and you will have to listen to me. And because if not, you're going to kill yourself. And I hear this talking to people, around the world. They have that moment of maybe a different illness, maybe a different something that's come in, but where they weren't doing it for themselves, suddenly their body went, right, now I'm going to make you. And you have to do that self-reflect, don't you? And you have to go back and go, well, I either make a change or I'm going to continue to be really, really ill and perhaps even worse. And it's awful that we have to get to that crunch moment, isn't it, before we make those changes.
And Kim, I know that that was a really traumatic time in your life. And there are people, obviously, with what's going on in the world today, people are suffering, struggling in all kinds of ways. If you wouldn't mind sharing with our audience, when you had the double pneumonia and you did almost die, how did you fight your way back?
Yeah, so I had it was bizarre, really. So I ended up, I thought I'd just got a cold. Everyone told me I was really ill, and I was like, it was so ridiculous. I'm a single mum, I'm in my 40s, life just takes a bit more of a toll. And then I rang to get a new inhaler, and they took me into hospital and told me that I might not come out. And I was like, you've got to be joking. I've got a little girl, she's not quite 2, she's at home with the neighbour having Sunday lunch. You can't tell me I'm not coming home to her, and you need to take these masks off because I need to ring family. And I remember in that moment praying and saying, if you let me out of here, if you let me home to her, I'll make whatever changes you need me to make. But the next thing that I did, I remember talking to the doctor and saying, tell me what you need me to do to get out of here and I'll do it. And he was like, madam, I don't think you understand. We're not sure you're making it out of here. And I remember looking at him and saying, no, you don't understand. I've got a little girl who needs me. I will get out of here and you will let me. And you just need to tell me what to do. And I was very fortunate that 3 days later, I was actually discharged, not only from intensive care, but also from the hospital. And he said, I've seen your x-rays. I don't understand how you went from what you had on Sunday to what you've got now on Wednesday and how clear they are. And I said, it was really simple. The only thing I focused on, the only thing I pictured, and I pictured it every minute of every day, was my little girl's face when I was the one that picked her up from nursery. And I didn't move from that bed. It's the first time I'd not worked in probably 24 years. I didn't switch my BlackBerry on, and I just rested and I focused on Scarlett, on getting home to her. And 3 days later, it became my reality. I did get to pick her up from nursery. And I remember at that point going, now you've got to make the changes that you said you'd make. And it started my 3-year journey into being kind to myself, in setting some boundaries. At that point, I'll be honest, I was at my lowest ebb, and I had to go and see somebody to help me on the internal work. And the first thing they said was, tell me 3 things that you like about yourself. And I couldn't think of one. And everything I came up with, I got great friends, was like, it's not about you. I've got great daughters, it's not about you. I couldn't find a single thing. And after half an hour of the most horrendously embarrassing sitting there not knowing anything, I came up with, I've got quite nice eyes. And I now feel quite sad for the me that I was then, that I couldn't acknowledge anything else about me. About I'm a good person. I try to be kind. I try and leave things better than I found them. None of that. It took me half an hour to come up with, I've got okay eyes, and that's only because they're the same as my daughter's, and she's adorable. But I guess it shows the work that sometimes we need to go through.
Wow, I so appreciate you for sharing all of that. And you have beautiful eyes, by the way. Okay, eyes. And I love your daughter's name, by the way, Scarlett. That's so pretty. This time that you had, that you focused on her, that you were motivated and driven, that you had to get back to her. How has that changed your life? You shared now that you can see the good in you. You can realize you have so much to offer. You are kind. You are giving and helping and making this world a better place. What else did you learn from that experience, Kim?
I learned so much. Being a mum, I've learned so much. But in that experience, it was really around making sure that I couldn't believe I'd waited like 40 odd years to have her, and then the fear that I might not be there for her. And it was my second potentially life-threatening illness before she was 2. And at that point, I was like, life is telling you, you either change or it's going to change for you. So it really spent the next few years focusing on the fact that I learned that the voice that we talk to ourselves becomes the voice we teach our children to talk to themselves. And that broke my heart, because I'm not very kind to myself and haven't been for a lot of years. And I know I'm not on my own with that. You know, I know a lot of us are perhaps use words on ourselves we would never dream of using on another human being. So I realized I had to go and do the work. I had to go and do that piece. And one of the other things that it taught me was, if you think about it, if you got up tomorrow and I said, in the morning, Dr. JACALYN, when you wake up, you're going to have to learn how to walk or talk or run or jump or skip, you'd be overwhelmed. We would all be overwhelmed. And yet the reality is, at our most vulnerable, we did it. So I started looking at this and going, why was that? Why, when we were so vulnerable, did we do something that today would overwhelm us? And in my opinion, it comes down to three things. The first is, we want to fit in. You can do it, so I want to do it. And the second thing is, we don't really know how to say no and mean it. Even a toddler tantrum runs out of steam eventually, even if you don't think it's ever going to. Promise you, they do eventually stop. But the third one, and perhaps for me the most important, and the one that I'm now trying to champion moving forward in people's lives, is I've yet to see a child try and walk without at least one adult nearby going, come on, you've got this, you can do it. So we quite literally lend our belief to them, and they borrow that belief and make it their own. But we stop doing it once they get to a certain age. So why do we stop doing it? Every single one of us can lend our belief to somebody, and just imagine the difference that can have. So I do it all the time now with my teams, or if I go into other organizations, lending my belief to them and their teams, and seeing them the moment that they've stopped borrowing your belief because they've created their own is priceless.
Wow. So many gems in there. I love it. And I think something also that's really is worth discussing is, I know for me, a period of my life, I would look at my biggest flaw and I would focus on that. It didn't matter if I accomplished all these other things. It was this one glaring thing. And now, again, this took a long time. I focus on the positive things, and I am aware of where I need to do work. And I come up with a plan instead of saying myself, my big thing is always about my weight. You need to lose weight. You should be stronger. You should be thinner. You should be leaner. And now I just say to myself, look how strong you are. Look at what you're capable of doing instead of all these other things.
Yeah, and also, I mean, look how strong, look how beautiful you are. You're a beautiful human being, and you've got real strength. You've got real strength of character, and yet we diminish ourselves, don't we, by these labels that we've created, where we go, well, hold on, if I were this size, or if I were this, what exactly would happen? So,
I know. I say, what difference would it make? I say that all the time. If you lost 5 pounds, how would your life change? It wouldn't. It would not change.
It wouldn't, but we convince ourselves, don't we? We absolutely, so it so resonates. We absolutely convince ourselves. And I had a boss once who said to me, he was like, certainly feedback, said, I've never met anybody who beats themselves up as often, as harshly, or as regularly as you do. And if it weren't for the fact it was so tragic, it'd be a key skill. That's feedback.
Oh my gosh.
He said, if anybody gives you a compliment, you're like, he said, but if anybody tells you something that's not great, you're like, tell me more. Exactly what did it? Oh, yes, I'm really bad at that. I'm really sorry. Yeah. He said, so it became the thing that you focused on. And we do that sometimes with compliments, don't we? People give you a compliment and it's a bit uncomfortable. My friend calls it I'm trying to make sure it translates for America, because I don't think you've got a Primark, like a thrift shop. She calls it the thrift shop brush off. So, somebody will say, oh, you look lovely today. And you're like, this was a fiver from the thrift shop, rather than just saying, yes, thank you.
I totally relate. If someone gives me a compliment, I'll say, oh, I don't look good. I have this, or are you kidding me? I have wrinkles. Like, you automatically bring in the negative, and then they're looking at you like, why did I even bother to say anything? Because now I gave you one sentence and you gave me a whole paragraph of negativity.
And it's true. And she taught me this amazing trick, which was, the next time somebody gives you feedback, imagine in your head that somebody has just given you the most delicate, the most fragile glass bauble that they could possibly have given you. And that's the feedback. So the minute that you dismiss it or tell them something you've done wrong, it's like taking your hands out from under that bauble and watching it shatter. And you'd never do that. So don't do that with their feedback. So now I try and remember that. Sometimes in my head, I have to have in the extra piece. So I'll go, thank you. And then in my head, I'll go, it was a fiver from the thrift shop. But at least I've learned to do it inside my head. And therefore, they're still left having given you this beautiful gift without you looking like you've dismissed it.
That's such a good analogy, Kim. I love that about the breakable bauble. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
But and I wonder if it's gender specific, or if it happens more as females. I don't actually know, but I can see it with many women that I've known throughout my life. There's always something else that we have to provide, especially when it comes to clothing. There's always oh, this old thing, I've had this for so, like, I don't know why we do that. I guess it's to take the attention off of us.
Yeah, I don't, like you, I don't really know why we do it. And I don't know if it does come back from that, the generations that we grew up in, where you were, were supposed to be seen and not heard, and wait to be spoken to, and, to sit and try and look pretty in the corner. Which, if you weren't, I was in a group of girls where, there was the pretty one, there was the intelligent one. I was the most like the lads. So, sitting in the corner and looking pretty was never going to be on my list of accomplishments. So I ended up having to find a way of having a sense of humor instead. So you found your in. But I think they're the parts we still revert back to those childhood personality types almost, don't we? I think I was looking at this with older relatives. I said, we almost become, as we get older, we become caricatures of ourselves. So the things that when we were really young, we got told off about because perhaps we were like too boisterous or too noisy, or we thought we were too funny. I was definitely in the you think you're funny camp. Probably not always that funny. But as I've got older, I find myself thinking I'm funnier, perhaps am, more of the time, and reverting back to hiding behind that humour. But when I look at my older relatives and older friends, they're doing the same. So the things that might have been minor personality niggles when in their adult life, now that they've become much older, they've really ramped the volume up on them. And I think they say, don't they, we start off as children and we go back to being children. But I think it is that piece is going, we start off being who we are, then we learn how to not be who we are because that might not fit in. And then when we get old enough, we go, I am who I am. Do you want to change? So I'm just going to go back to being who I am. And therefore we return that volume up. So I guess it's, how do we learn to do that without the need for age to be our determiner?
I think that's a great book topic. You are very funny, by the way. It's interesting because I always thought of myself as a good storyteller, and I love to tell stories. My dad was a good storyteller, and I was at a dinner in corporate before I retired, and one of the executives who was younger, he was listening, but I could tell he wanted me to stop talking. And afterwards, he said to me, "Your stories are too long." And I said, "What are you talking about? The whole table was captivated." That was the word. They were captivated by my story. And he said, "You're really full of yourself, aren't you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're not that great of a storyteller." Okay, that's one person's opinion. I still like to tell a good story, and I'm telling them.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we look at that and we go, well, that's one person's opinion. But like you said, a whole table were captivated by you. So it's not always it's not always the storytelling, it's whether or not it hits that particular member of the audience. Because somebody said this to me the other day, and I loved it. They said, if you go on to book reviews about your favorite book in the world, and you go on and look at it, and there'll be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people that have either liked or disliked it. And sometimes when you read the dislike reviews, you kind of go, do they even read the same book as me? Because this is my favorite book. It doesn't change the fact it's your favorite book. It just means that it didn't resonate for everybody. And I think that's the piece we've got to learn in life, is when people give us constructive feedback, we can take the bits and say, do I want to make this change? Do I agree that that's right? Or do I think this is opinion? And then make those choices. But if you've got 50 people telling you you're great at it and one person saying you're really awful at it, then I'd probably take that in balance to say, perhaps that person didn't particularly like the story, as opposed to you're a rubbish storyteller that should never tell a story ever again. And yet we need to learn that, don't we? Because if not, we take those negative reviews and we make them our reality.
I love what you're saying. I love it. And I think collectively what we can take away from this is, if you have 50 reviews, and a review can look like anything, it can be in any shape or form, and you have some small portion that are not positive, instead of zoning in on that, because that's what I did most of my life. It's like, how can I get them to like me? How can I get them to say yes? Focus on the rest that are really good, and just be realistic that not everybody's going to like you or who you are or what you're doing. And that's okay. That's their business.
I love that. And I live my life loving quotes. And I found a quote recently that hopefully sums up what you were saying, which is, as a British person, we could argue about how we take our tea as much as we could about politics and religion. And I found this quote that said, I would rather be somebody's shot of whiskey than everybody's cup of tea. And I love it, because for the right people, you'll be that shot of whiskey. And for the other people, you're just not their people. But you don't have to make it mean something about you.
Brilliant. I love that. That's a great way to end the show. Kim, I would love for you to share with our audience, who is it that we would like to join us on this show, and how can they contact you? And obviously they can go to our website, but if you want to reach out to Kim directly, let's have you share a little bit more with our audience about who should be coming onto the show with us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, what we'd really like to do is be able to share inspiring stories of people who have achieved things that maybe to start off with they didn't think they could, but they've done so being themselves. Whether they've always been themselves, or like me, it took a while for them to shed the mask and just say, I am what I am, and I'm going to do my best to do it well and be kind, but I am who I am. So we'd love to hear your stories, to hear how you've achieved what you wanted to, what your dream was. And like Dr. JACALYN said earlier in the show, authentic achievements, your achievements are your achievements. They're not for anybody else to define. They're for you to define, and for you to do so with your authentic self. And that's who we'd really like to come on, to be able to help people to understand how they too can overcome any obstacle that they've got in their way to achieve what they really want to do, and align their purpose to really get out there and live life the way they want to.
Thank you, Kim. And your contact information for people who are listening on the radio and cannot read the banner.
Absolutely. So you can get in touch with me at hello@KimAdeleRandall.com. I'll spell that out in case my accent is a bit weird. So it's hello@KIMADELERANDALL.com. And you can also visit the websites at KimAdeleRandall.com or LegacyMediaHub.com.
Fantastic. Kim, this was a brilliant show. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to working with you every week as we come to you at 9 a.m. Eastern time, which is 2 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
It is. It's 2 p.m. this time, and I'm so thrilled to be part of the team. Thank you so much for having me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you today. I hope our audience has too, and I look forward to seeing our audience join us and share their stories as we continue on this journey.
Absolutely. Well, you have a beautiful rest of your day. By the way, is there a time change coming soon?
It will be, I think it's April. It's usually around Easter time that we move to British summertime. Not that you'd notice the British summer, to be fair.
So you can still find us at the same time every Friday. So do join us. You can go over to our website, which is usaglobaltv.com. You can book your session there. And you can also go to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. And you will see, starting tonight, there will be a playlist for our shows. And you can find our shows with Kim there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care. It's good seeing you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you, whether you are watching on the live or the replay. It means so much to have you follow us. If you can help spread the word. You see, Kim is a beautiful woman inside and out, has so much to offer, and we are going to be together here every week. So if you would like to take part in our show, we'd love to have you. We have about 22 live shows each week, all with different topics. We have something for everyone, except we do not have any politics. So thank you again. We're coming right back with the power of etiquette and manners, and I look forward to seeing you with us then. You can stay right where you are. I'll go over to the other studio. Thanks again. Take care of yourselves.